So this happened when I was 20 years old. I'm 22 now, so it's not that long ago. While in college, I was a babysitter during the week for a family, and sometimes I would nanny for this other, wealthier family on the weekends. They would go away often on the weekends and leave their 2 kids, so I would stay at the house for the weekend with the kids. They had a whole dedicated guest bedroom just for me, and the family was super nice, so it was honestly great while it lasted. It happened in the fall. The leaves were all falling and it was chilly outside. I had gotten to the house Friday, and Friday night went completely fine. I just played with the 2 kids, who I'll nickname James and Jessica. James was 7, Jessica was 5. They were both cute and well behaved. Their bedtimes were 7:30 for Jessica and 8:30 for James. During the day, I'd play with each of them with their toys. The family had 2 dedicated rooms for their toys, one for Jess, one for James. Jessica loved her dolls and doll houses. I spent a lot of time playing with her. James loved playing his video games, so I'd watch him play. These kids really had everything, and the house was gorgeous. It was a giant property with a big pond in the middle. It had a separate 3-car garage, and then a pool with a pool house across the pond, which was also a bar and rec room, with a pool table and darts, arcade games, and a giant TV and multiple sofas. This family was so well off and over the top that they even had an intercom that connected from the pool house to the actual house, so that if you press a button on the wall in either place, it would ring and then you could talk through it. The pool house also had a giant window that overlooked the pond and had a view of the house. So after the kids went to bed, I was free to do as I pleased for the night. It was great. I wasn't supposed to have friends over though. That was a rule I respected. I would just FaceTime my friends and watch movies in the pool house to pass the time. It was not a bad place to have free time in, I'll tell you that. I started getting hungry, so I walked back across the property to the house, entered the code to let myself in, and went to the kitchen. They had so many snacks and food that I was allowed to help myself to. I grabbed a frozen snack from the freezer and threw it in the microwave. And when I was done, I went back across the property to the pool house. I liked hanging out in there more because I could be louder on the phone and have the TV as loud as I want without waking the kids. I was on the couch eating, watching the movie White Chicks, while texting a bunch of my friends. I was just in the middle of telling my friends how great of a gig this was, when the intercom beeper gave me a heart attack. I went to go press the answer button, and I heard Jessica's voice on the other end, saying she's scared because she keeps hearing noises. Usually she'd sleep through the night, so I'd have to go tuck her back in. I set my food down and ran back across the yard to the house. I entered through the door with the code lock again and went to Jess's room. She must have ran straight back to her bed after we got off the intercom, because she was already back in her bed all scared. I went to tickle her and tuck her in just so she wouldn't be scared anymore. When she felt better, I left her room, shut the door, and walked down the hall back to the kitchen to grab some wine. As I was looking for a wine opener, I heard the ever so lightest crack in the wood floor from another room. I froze and looked in that direction, instinctively waiting for a second sound. I didn't want to start freaking myself out now. I didn't want Jessica saying she's hearing noises to get in my head. I was thinking it was a regular house settling noise. I admit I was a little creeped out now, but I left the lights and TV on in the pool house, so I had to go back. I went outside, locked the door with the code, and ran across to the pool house. I sat back down on the couch and resumed eating the rest of my food. I didn't end up bringing the wine. I still had White Chicks on, though I was mostly just getting distracted on my phone. Then that damn intercom went off again, making me jump in my seat. I hurried to answer it, and when I did, there was silence on the other end. "Jessica," I said into the mic. I thought for sure I heard someone breathing, but that's all I could hear. I said both Jessica and James' names at least 3 times each. Now I was actually starting to become terrified. I called my friend Kelsey and told her I want her to come here because I'm actually getting really scared. I told her that the little girl I'm watching said that she was hearing noises, and then I heard a noise, and now someone pressed the intercom button but didn't say anything. I felt like it was not something one of the kids would do. I was still on the phone with Kelsey, who was telling me to stop being paranoid, but she also sounded drunk. I was looking out the window to the house the whole time I was on the phone with her. The hallway lights turned on. I told Kelsey this, and any ounce of possibility that it was one of the kids disappeared when a large figure stepped into.
This man caused an entire state to go into lockdown. In 1994, a man known as Timeless Tommy was detained by police in Elkhorn, Indiana. Tommy, always seen wearing outdated clothes from the 1920s, was a drifter who moved from town to town. He looked shockingly young, yet he was rumored to have been spotted in photographs from over 70 years earlier, unchanged. The local sheriff's office launched an investigation, comparing photographs and discovering that Tommy had been seen in towns across the state since the early 1900s, always vanishing without a trace. In 1995, he was detained, but while in custody, he claimed that he was destined to walk forever. When he was checked on later that night, he was gone, with only an old pocket watch left in his cell. Afterward, Elkhorn residents reported seeing Tommy wandering the streets, staring into their homes late at night, even appearing in their mirrors. Paranoia spread, and the town went into lockdown, urging people to stay inside, fearing Tommy's ghostly presence might be contagious. It's said that those who see Tommy now also begin to stop aging, as if cursed by his eternal existence, and eventually vanish without explanation.
This is from Billy.
Ooh, hi Billy.
Hi ladies, absolutely love the podcast. I have a short, spooky and true story for you.
Oh my god.
Ellipses. This is a story from my dad, from when he used to work at a children's care home in Birmingham in the 80s. My dad and one of the other ladies that worked in the home were taking a minibus of around 10 kids aged between 8 and 12 up to the Yorkshire moors for a few days of camping. This was in early September of 1982. After a long drive, they eventually reached the sparse moors of North Yorkshire, just as the sun was starting to set. Sounds gorgeous.
Gorgeous.
It was quiet and peaceful, and they hadn't seen another car or person for at least half an hour of them driving. My dad and his co-worker then had the task of setting up all the tents for the children, along with a larger communal tent. This sounds horrible, and your dad needs a medal. Imagine setting up. I couldn't even set up one tent.
I can't set up a tent unless it's one that you throw and then it just inflates. That's my kind of tent.
Absolutely hilarious. Whilst they were busy setting the tents up, the children went off to go and play a game of hide and seek. After around 45 minutes, one of the girls came back to the van crying. She said she was hiding in the dense heather and undergrowth of the moors when she heard a voice growl, "I'm going to fucking kill you."
Jesus.
My dad's co-worker tried to calm the girl down, and my dad reassured her that it was just going to be James messing around. James was a troublesome 11-year-old who enjoyed winding the other younger kids up and getting a rise out of them, and this was not uncommon behaviour for him. I was a James, defo. The girl then waited with the adults while they finished setting the tents up until my dad called the rest of the kids in to sit down in a large tent for some hot chocolate, as it was getting far too dark. Almost pitch black with the lack of light pollution in the area. James ended up getting told off by my dad for upsetting the girl, but he denied the accusation as per usual for him. Once everyone was cozied up inside the tent and sipping on their hot chocolate, talking about their plans for tomorrow, a man's voice growled loudly from just outside the tent, "I'm going to fucking kill you."
Oh my god.
Everyone panicked. My dad looked at James, sat across from him, and he just looked pale. Both adults rushed the kids back into the minibus, quickly scanning the surroundings with a torch for the man they heard outside the tent, but the moors remained as empty as they were when the group arrived. Not a soul in sight. They left the tents where they stood on the dark, damp moors and drove all through the night back to Birmingham in silence, and my dad refuses to ever go back there to this day, over 50 years later. Hope you enjoyed my story, Billy.
Oh my god.
When I was 13, me and my cousin went to the movie theater to watch The Conjuring 2. We were so excited because we were going to watch the horror movie alone with no adults. We were going to go with my older cousin, but they let us go alone because it was my cousin's birthday. When we went to the theater, we got popcorn and snacks to watch the movie. When we went inside the room and got into our seats, I noticed a woman dressed up as a nun. At first I got scared, but then I thought it could be a staff member. I told my cousin, and then we just got excited. The nun sat down a few rows behind us and watched the movie. When me and my cousin were watching the movie, I turned to see the nun, who was now looking at me. She was sitting down, but had her head turned to look at me. I got scared and told my cousin. She told me to ignore it, so I did. For the next half hour, I focused on the movie. Then I turned to the nun, who was now even closer to our seats. I panicked and told my cousin. She looked at the nun and told me the movie was about to finish and not to worry. I was scared the whole rest of the movie. I wanted to turn my head to see where the nun was, but I was scared that she might be closer. When I finally turned to look, I didn't see her. I was relieved, but then I noticed a black head in the row in front of me. It was the nun. I got so scared, I couldn't even talk, so I just poked my cousin's arm and pointed at the nun. My cousin was scared now, so she told me to change seats to get closer to the stairs by the exit. We changed seats, and I just kept looking at the nun. At this time, the movie had been out for a few days already, so there weren't many people in the seats. I was still watching the nun, but I was also watching the movie. At one point, I forgot about the nun until there was a creepy scene, and then I magically remembered the nun. I turned to look for her, and she was standing at the end of our row. When I saw her standing there, I couldn't tell if she was looking at us or at the stairs, but I was confident she was staring at us. I told my cousin, and she got creeped out. She told me that if the nun came any closer, we should jump into the front rows. I agreed, so for the rest of the movie, we just kept an eye on the nun. In the movie, there were lots of screams, which made us focus on the movie and then on the nun. We looked back at the movie for a moment, and then I heard footsteps. I turned and could tell that the nun had gotten closer.
A very popular influencer on this app slid into my DMs and she's like, I've been watching your spooky scary story times. They're always on my For You page and I have a creepy story for you, but you have to keep me anonymous. And this one is good. She told me it involves a very high profile Hollywood actor. To be fair, she did not tell me who it is, so don't be asking me because I don't know. She started her DM by saying that she's wanted to tell this story on her own page for a while, but she signed an NDA and she can't risk getting into legal trouble, but she's still curious to what people think. So she said 2 years ago she was in LA at a red carpet premiere with a friend of hers who's a model. The premiere wraps up, they go to an after party, and at the after party is a very prominent Hollywood actor. She says it's a household name, everybody knows who he is. He is significantly older than her. She's in her mid-20s. She said her and the actor were making eyes all night, but they didn't really talk except for once when they were at the bar at the same time, and he complimented her drink choice. Her and her friend decide to leave around 1:30 in the morning. They're walking toward the door. The actor is by the door. He stops them. He's like, where are y'all going? She tells him they have no plans. He's like, we should be friends on Instagram. So he adds her on Instagram. She's all excited about it, but doesn't really think anything comes of it. She said that she's used to being around very famous people and nothing ever happens. So they're in the Uber on the way back to her friend's house when he DMs her and he's like, hey, if you want to keep this party going, you can come over to my place. I can send you a car. Her friend's like gassing her up. She's like, yes, girl, go get it. Like she thinks they're going to hook up. So she goes back to her friend's place. He sends an Uber to pick her up and takes her to a house in the hills. She says the Uber pulls up to a gate with an intercom system and the Uber driver's like, what do I do? And she's like, I don't even know if he knows my full name. So she tells the Uber driver his name. He's like, hey, I'm dropping off so-and-so. And there's just like silence on the other end of the intercom. So she DMs the guy. She's like, hey, I'm here. He DMs her back after like a minute and he's like, okay, like just go in. You beat me home. She gets dropped off, walks up to the door, knocks on the door, and like the help, I guess, answers the door. She said when she got there, she was a little bit put off because there were other people there and the help takes her phone and has her sign an NDA. And she said that she didn't recognize anybody that was there, but there were probably like 15 people all kind of scattered around the living room and the kitchen, just drinking and making themselves at home. A lot of them were sitting around boredly, just like in like quiet conversations with each other. So she just goes and like takes a seat. He walks in after about 15 minutes and goes like straight over to her, leads her to his bedroom. They hook up. She actually said it was very vanilla, very boring. She thinks she's gonna go. He's like, do you want to go to another party? There's something else happening tonight. And she's like, okay, sure. So he leads her down this back stairwell in the back corner of one of the rooms in his house. And it's like a warehouse type garage. He's got a bunch of cars parked down there and they get in the back of this unmarked black SUV. She says the car is driving underground in tunnels for about 20 minutes and she's trying to make like light conversation with him. Like, where are we going? Like, whose party is this? And he's just like, oh, it's a really good time. Like, you'll like it when we get there. But she said he was very stoic, like did not talk to her more than a few words at a time. The car pulls out of the tunnel and they are in front of this big warehouse. And she said she didn't recognize anything around it. She has no idea where they were. She said probably 20 minutes in any direction from the hills. It's still dark out. They walk up to the front of this warehouse. There's like big steel doors and there's a couple bouncers outside in like black suits. They open the doors, they let them in. And she said it's all red lit inside and the whole warehouse was sectioned off into different areas. To her immediate left when she walked in was a bar. To the right was a small circle with a short fence surrounding the circle. And in the middle of the circle was a woman. Outside the circle was a guy dressed as a bullfighter and there were about 20 people watching this. So she looks at the actor and she's like, what is this? And he's like, oh, it's kind of like an art installation. Like there's just different spectacles to see. She said some areas were not that abnormal. Like one area just had a tarot card reader. So there was another area with just some couches and speakers and a DJ, and in that area the DJ was just playing this like very electronic bass heavy music with metal noises, and there were people with power tools making sparks fly everywhere. I don't know. So they're just sitting in there having some drinks, listening to the music for a little while, when she feels somebody tap her, and she turns around and there's a guy standing with a wolf mask on, in like normal street clothes, but just like a giant wolf mask with the mouth open. And he's like, hey, and the actor she's with grabs her and like pulls her away. And she's like, what was that? And he's like, you're not ready for that crowd yet. They're walking around looking at all the different installations or exhibits, I guess. And they get to like a far back corner. And she said there were two people, a man and a woman, and they were blindfolded. And in front of them on the floor was a bunch of broken glass. And she said when they got over there, there were like 40 people all standing around, like watching them. And the people all watching them were encouraging them to like take steps forward. She said she looked down at their feet and could tell that at some points they had misstepped and stepped on broken glass. Both the man and the woman were standing still when somebody in the crowd threw a glass at them and was like, move. So she got upset at this point, and she like grabs the actor and she's like, I don't like this. Like, I want to go. And he tries to calm her down. He's like, everybody that is here willingly. Like, it's with consent. It's just an installation. I told you that. And she's like, I don't like this. It's creeping me out. Like, I want to leave. So he's reluctant, but he agrees. So they go back outside. They get in the black unmarked SUV and they start driving, but they don't go back in the tunnel. They're taking a different road, and she doesn't recognize anything. So they're driving for like 10 minutes. Mind you, she still doesn't have her phone, and they pull up to this gas station. The car stops. He's like, this is your stop. The driver hands her her phone, and they're like, get out. She's like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't even know where I am. He's like, get out. So she gets out of the car, and the car pulls away. She opens Insta to DM him, and he already has blocked her. So she has to call her own Uber. She said it took like 10 minutes for the guy to get there, and then it was 40 minutes till she got home. She said she's been wondering literally for like 2 years now what she saw at that party, especially with everything that's coming out about Hollywood. So she's curious to what you guys think. It did come from her actual account, and like this could be a made up story. However, I did look at her account. Like, she is huge on this app. I don't know why she would lie about this, especially being anonymous. Let me know what you think, and keep sending me your spooky scary stories, and I'll keep adding them to this playlist. Also, I have polls on my Insta every day on the next spooky scary story I tell.
Get ready with me while I tell you something very scary I went through. Correction, that I went through. Okay, so this story took place in 2016. My parents, they clean offices, and me and my brother, we used to go help them at the time. So it's basically like they go at night when nobody's in the buildings to clean the offices. So I don't want to say exactly where this was, but this building was pretty big. It was a 2-story building, and we would usually separate. So it would be my mom and dad, and then me and my brother. So there was this one specific time where there were some construction workers, and they had to go at night too, so nobody's at the building. So me and my brother, we were in an office, and sometimes the bucket where we throw the trash in gets really full. So I would tell my brother, can you go throw the trash, so I could start taking more trash out because it didn't fit anymore. So I noticed my brother was taking a little longer than he should have, and I was like, okay, let me just leave. So I was like, let me just leave. I'm already done with this office, so let me see where he's at. So this is where it gets really freaking creepy. By the time I get to the hallway, my mom and dad and my brother are there, and my brother is telling them that he ran into a construction worker. My brother starts telling my dad how the construction worker stopped him and asked him if he's ever heard noises in the building or if he's ever seen anything. My brother then tells him, yeah, we do hear things sometimes, but we just like ignore it, or we just don't pay much attention to it. Although there were times we did hear things and we got scared. Well, the construction worker starts telling my brother that they're not coming at night anymore. They're getting their stuff and leaving because they saw a little boy. So they saw a little boy dressed in hospital clothes, like a hospital gown, running through the hallway, and a doctor or nurse type looking chasing after them. Yeah, and mind you, this building is not a hospital, not a clinic. It is a call center. So it was a call center upstairs, and downstairs it was a DR Horton. The DR Horton office was where the construction workers were in. So my dad starts saying like, there's no way, they just made that up. Start saying they're just trying to scare you, like blah blah blah. So we just like go about the day. We didn't really think much of it. It did scare us, but we were like, what the fuck. So fast forward a couple months later, so we're back in the building, and my dad comes up to us and he looks freaking scared, and we're like, what happened? And he said that he saw so my dad starts telling us that he was in the hallway and that he saw a doctor pushing a patient on like a hospital bed, and they were exiting the building, and that my dad yelled, hey, and that they turned and looked at him directly The patient looked directly into my dad, and my dad was like looking at him, and that quickly they exited the building. And my dad said he ran out of the building, and when he went out there was nothing, like no cars. It was empty. It's just our car there in the building parking lot. So after that, we decided that we did not want to separate, and my dad was like, F that, we're not separating. We literally saw what the construction workers said that they saw, except it wasn't a kid, it was like an older guy. So, well, shortly after that happened, we didn't work there long after that. But now, so a couple months from today, we went to go visit that building, but it's completely abandoned. Like, it's just, there's nothing in it. So I'm just like, but yeah, let me know if you guys believe in ghosts, and let me know if you guys want more scary stories, because I have a lot.
Daddy, look at my drawing.
Oh, wow, that looks so good, son. But who is the other daddy?
Mommy said I can't tell you. She said it's top secret.
Top secret?
Yes, Mr. Longbranch won't bring me ice cream anymore if I tell you.
Mr. Longbranch?
Mommy says that's his nickname because he has a long branch. I don't know what that means.
Does he come around often?
Yes, all the time. Whenever you leave the house, he comes.
What do they do together?
Mommy said that they work on some projects, but all I hear is them playing WWE in the bedroom. And they make macaroni and cheese together. They never share the mac and cheese. Apparently it's too sticky for me.
What?
Yeah, it happens all the time. They're in the bedroom for at least 30 minutes every time. That must be some good mac and cheese.
Do you want some ice cream tonight?
Yes, please.
Okay, I need you to do something for me. Is that okay?
Yes, Daddy, I'll do anything.
Tomorrow morning after I leave the house, I need you to tell me when Mommy's friend comes over.
Okay. He's here, Daddy.
Okay, what are they doing?
I think they're playing WWE. Mommy keeps screaming, pin me down. She always gets up before the countdown. Wait, she's about to get pinned. 10, 9, 8, 7. She got out.
I'll be home in 3 minutes.
Are you angry? Why are you kicking the door down?
Stay in your room.
Okay. Daddy, what's going on? Are you playing WWE with them? I'm hearing a lot of mac and cheese right now.
Whatever you do, do not talk to Zozo. I did this and messed up so bad. First of all, you guys shouldn't even be using Ouija boards. But I know some of you guys are not gonna listen to me, and talking to him is a no-no. Actually, you can't even say his name out loud 3 times or you will summon him. When I was 16, I accidentally summoned Nozo. Before I tell you what happened, let me tell you a little bit about who Bozo is. Toto is also known as the Ouija board demon. Of all the things to talk to on a Ouija board, he's not it. He is supposedly a fallen angel that was banished from the heavens by God. Some people even compare him to the actual devil. In the 1940s, a little boy named Roland Doe was possessed. It has become a widespread belief that Toto is the one that possessed him. This little boy's story is what inspired the first exorcism movie. I'm Nikki, and if you're new to my channel, I'm a professional ghost hunter. One of the reasons you have to be so careful with Ouija boards and talking to toenails is because he can actually mimic voices of the dead. And a lot of times people using Ouija boards are wanting to talk to dead loved ones. He will prey on your insecurities and your fears, and overall he just sucks. He delights in scaring people, so whether that's telling you you're gonna pass soon or telling you there's 9 ghosts instead of 2 in the house. He even goes as far as to confuse psychics by telling them things like he's a little boy ghost and he's scared of the big bad ghost in the corner. There's a malevolent spirit in the house, but really there's only one, and it's him. He is a master deceiver, and we can go through the whole history of Bobo. Some people even think he's the only spirit that you actually talk to through a Ouija board, which I hope that is not the case, because I've used a Ouija board a lot in my life. It was Halloween and I was in high school. Now, I grew up in a small town, and if you're in a small town, you most likely have one of these. Around Halloween, a bunch of like haunted hayride things will pop up. It's like the thing to do with friends or a date. And I was a theater kid, so when my friend Connor from theater class asked me if I wanted to go on this haunted hayride, I said yes. Now, I didn't see Connor as anything more than a friend, and actually one of my friends had a crush on Connor. So when we went on the hayride and Connor tried to kiss me, I was caught off guard to say the least. But I'm a girl's girl, and I'm not about to do my friend like that. This is Piper, my haunted doll, and she's gonna play Connor for this demonstration. Because I know there's some girls out there that will be like, oh, well, he kissed me, I didn't kiss him. This is how you be avoiding that. He comes in like this, and I'm like, anyways, I swerve Connor. You're probably like, what does this have to do with ghost hunting, Nikki? Well, I didn't do anything risky in high school. I didn't sleep with people. I didn't drink, nothing of that sort. So when Connor decided to come up with a rumor to boost his ego at school the next day, the most realistic thing he could come up with was that I was a witch. And boy, did people believe that one. Yes, I dyed my hair black. Yes, I had a black cat. But I was at church every Wednesday. Y'all know small town rumors, they don't just disappear. So being the queen that I am, and I heard this rumor, I embraced it. And if everyone thinks I'm a witch and they think I'm gonna like curse them or something, which I know that's not all witches do, but that's a pro in my book. So after second period, this girl I've never met comes up to me. The quiet, shy girl that sits in the back of the class. And I have never spoken to this girl in my life. life. The first thing she says to me is, so I heard you're a witch. And I'm like, call me Ursula, what can I do for you, baby? I'm thinking this girl's gonna be asking me for like a love potion or something, which I would have no idea how to make. No, she says, my house is haunted. Can you get rid of the ghost? Theater Nikki activates. Of course I can get rid of your ghost. Now at this point I already believed in ghosts because I grew up in a haunted house. But this girl did not have a ghost. She had a demon. We'll get to that later. I fill a spray bottle about this size that's clear with water. I show up at her house and tell her it's holy water. I spray it around her house. And then before I leave I tell her actually I'm not a witch. But yeah, this was funny. That's how I met my best friend. So that's how this all got started. The house that I grew up in was also haunted, but we'll get into that later. First, let me tell you a little bit about the thing that was in her house. At the time, we didn't know anything about spirits or ghosts. This thing had a weird affiliation with a snow globe that she kept in her closet. He would appear as a shadow man and he would pace around her room at night, specifically between the hours of 2 and 3 a.m. We knew there was something there, but we didn't know who it was or what it wanted. So we looked up how to talk to ghosts, and that's where we learned about Ouija boards. How bad can they be? You can get them at your local Toys R Us. Is my age showing with that one? When you first get a Ouija board and you open the box, there's a few rules. Rule number 1, never play alone. Rule number 2, never play in a graveyard. Rule number 4, you never let it go to the 4 corners of the board or make a figure 8. You also never leave the planchette on the board because that opens a portal. Rule number 5, always keep your fingers on the planchette until you say goodbye. And last but not least, the most important rule, always say goodbye. We were young, we were naive, we didn't read instruction manuals, are you kidding? We basically broke every single one of these rules. But we started using the board to talk to the ghost in her house. We would ask it things like, does my crush like me back? Will so-and-so break up? Who's gonna go to prom with who? But the scary part was, it was always right. And because it was always right, we became addicted to playing with the board because we wanted to know more. Wouldn't you want to know more?